So guys, welcome back to Cooking with Chris. Today is day 143 of the lockdown. The sale of alcohol is still in effect, or the ban on the sale of alcohol is still in effect. So I can neither confirm nor deny that what I just had has got any vodka in it. Just making sure. All right. I've gone a little bit crazy, or I have been going a little bit crazy over the last couple of weeks and months. And as a result, today I've decided that I want to do a pork belly on kettle braai. Now, I don't have a Weber, but what I do have is a cheap knockoff. And the problem with the knockoff is that it's got two vents on the top, so you're losing heat in a place where you don't want to lose it. So what I've done is taken measures to ensure that one of those vents is now permanently closed. I will show you in a minute exactly what I'm talking about. Now, today is also going to be an experiment, because I've decided that doing a whole pork belly just one way is not crazy enough. So today I took the pork belly and I cut it in half. Well, I did this last night. You'll see in the next series of clips what exactly I'm talking about. But one half of the pork belly has got a rub on it. I've scored the meat and put a Brazilian smokehouse rub on it, which I think is absolutely delicious. It's all personal preference. You might have your own rub, but that's neither here nor there. So on the skin side of that half of the pork belly, all I'm going to be doing is coating the skin with vinegar to make it nice and crispy. Hopefully it'll come out nice and crispy. The other half, last night after I removed the ribs, now I'm not a butcher, so this is the first time I've removed ribs from a pork belly, so forgive the massacring of this particular piece of meat. But on that half of the pork belly, on the skin side, I scored it and I lay it in salt overnight. I did this at about 10 o'clock and I took it out at about 10 o'clock this morning, so it's been in there for a good 12 hours. So the skin should have dried out quite nicely. I then put some olive oil on the skin and a little bit more salt, and I'm going to be putting them in the kettle braai. I'm going to be cooking on indirect heat, so it's going to be nice and hot. I'm looking hopefully at a temperature of around 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 140 degrees Celsius, then thereabouts. And I want the internal temperature of the meat to be around 80 degrees once cooked. And for the vinegar half of the pork belly, I will be coating the skin every half an hour or so, just to ensure that it dries out quite nicely and hopefully will get nice and crispy as a result. The salt one, I'm guessing it should crispen up like it normally does if you're cooking it in the oven. So without any further ado, this is the butchering of the pork belly that I did last night. You'll see that now, and then I will show you what I did to the one vent of the lid of the kettle braai, so that I only lose heat in one place rather than multiple places. Okay, so here is our spread. This is the salted one. I lay the skin down overnight for about 12 hours. You see a lot of the moisture is there. Also, you will have some moisture from the olive oil as well. But before I put that on, I'll make sure that it's nice and dry. I'll wipe the last little bit of salt and moisture off. And with the score marks in here, hopefully as it cooks, that fat will render. This one is the vinegar coated one. I've already coated it this morning one time. And then before it goes on, or when it goes on, I'll coat it again. And the underside has got the smokehouse rub on it. All right. So this is the vinegar we're going to be coating that one with. And then this is going to be the fat pan. You can see I've got some gloves because I prefer to handle the meat with gloves on. And then I have a meat thermometer as well, which I'll then use to test the doneness of it. And then at the back is also the not a screwdriver, which is delicious, by the way, but it's not a screwdriver. Right, I'm going to pack the charcoal now, and once I'm done, I'll show you exactly how I've set it up, and we'll get the fire going. Right, let's do this, and hopefully it works out. Okay, let's go. Alright, so that's about it really. It does really go that quickly. Once those coals are burnt down nicely, then the half that doesn't have any heat, that is where I'm going to be putting a catch pan to catch the fat that renders off the pork belly. And then I will put some hot water in there just to keep moisture in the kettle. And then the pork belly will go on the top grate and then catch the indirect heat coming off it, and the vents on the kettle will sit here where my finger is, so that it will draw the heat over the lid or over the dome and then out the vents. So hopefully this works out, but we'll see how we go. We're looking at probably about a 4-hour cook there and thereabouts. Okay, that's the normal vent. That's the vent I'm going to be using to draw the heat across the lid and then out, so it'll be drawn across the meat, but in order to prevent me losing heat on the other side, so basically I've got 2 vents, one here and the other one on the other side, and I'll go around the other side and show exactly what I did. Alright, so what you're looking at are pop rivets which I secured, so hopefully that'll hold it in place quite nicely and seal it so you don't have smoke or heat escaping through this particular vent, and we don't want that. And just like with duct tape, if you can't silence a child with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape. So in order to seal this, I went a little bit overboard to ensure that I seal it as tightly as I possibly can. Right, so here we have the scored, salted and oiled half of the pork belly. I'm just going to dry this off, and then we'll sort out the other one with an additional coat of vinegar on the skin. Our braai has come to temperature quite nicely. Now standing at about 350, which is quite nice. It's right pretty much in the sweet spot of where we want it. These will then go on, and then in about half an hour I'll do a second coating of the skin with the vinegar. Alright, so let's just clean this one off first. Make sure that it's nice and dry, because otherwise the skin is not going to get crispy. It's just going to get all soggy and mushy, and that's no fun. So the salt is drawn in very, very nicely, because last night I could barely see the spore marks, and now they're standing quite pronounced. Okay, that's pretty much good to go. Next up is the vinegar. Okay, alright, so this one is also nice and dry, and not a lot of moisture is seeped out. Hopefully the smokehouse rub will have drawn into the skin quite nicely, or into the meat rather, quite nicely. So it's just a coat of the vinegar. Now to come, while you're doing this, you want to keep the vinegar on the skin only. You don't really want the vinegar to go into the meat, otherwise it gives it a bit of a sour taste. But you can't be 100% unless you protect the meat completely while you're busy basting the vinegar on it. So hopefully the rub on the meat side will ensure that whatever droplets of vinegar ends up on the meat is masked by the rub, because the rub is quite a pungent smell to it. Not pungent in a bad way, but it's got quite a pronounced fragrance and odor. Yes, and the ever-present, not a screwdriver, is here. Right, you see we've got the drip pan in. So first things first, gloves. I think it's that not a vodka that's making me so forgetful. Alright, here we go. And then the rub. Okay, we've got a little bit of cross-contamination here, but it's not the end of the world. The important thing is that the lid can close. Okay. Lid opposite vents, opposite the heat, and we'll just let that come up to temperature. As it shouldn't be more than about 350, then thereabouts. Yeah, temperature is settled in at about 390 Fahrenheit, which is roughly 200 degrees Celsius, which is okay. There's nothing else I can do about that. But I won't be closing any vents to bring the temperature down. So I'm not going to be playing around too much with the temperatures. The important thing is the skin. If the skin isn't crispy by the time the meat is cooked, then all I'll do is I'll bring the coals into the middle and then just turn it upside down, fat side down, and let it crisp up just for like 2 or 3 minutes. Alright, so let's go turn 2, and then also baste on the vinegar. Again, just like I did the last time, I'm also going to be turning it around just to keep the meat away, or only one side of the meat away from the direct heat. But the vinegar skin is starting to blister, but it hasn't crisped up yet. Neither of them have, but we're going to flip them anyway. Okay, yeah, he's coming along nicely. We've got quite a bit of fat that's rendered out already. That is busy dripping into the drip pan at the bottom. Okay, see you when it's done. Okay, experiment over. The meat has reached an internal temperature of about 80-82 degrees, which is perfect. The skin hasn't crisped up as nicely as I wanted it to. It's crisped here because I turned it upside down to fat side down. So this hasn't hardened like I'd wanted to with the vinegar. And then I did the same with the salt, and also we got the bits that were exposed directly to the heat, but the skin didn't crisp up nicely. Let's just try the salt first. Okay, it's probably going to be easier to turn it upside down. It looks pretty good. It's juicy. Alright, let's do a taste test. Right, crackling first. You gave me some crack there. Flavor is good, but not as crispy as I'd ever liked. Alright, meat. Oh wow. Oh wow. Tastes like a Christmas pork. Okay. This is the one with the vinegar and the smokehouse rub. This is where the ribs came out. That's why it looks as if it's been butchered. Let's have a look. Strangely not as juicy as the other one, but taste will tell us. Skin. There's a bit of a crunch. Okay, the vinegar is nowhere near as flavorful as the salt on the top. Okay, let's try the meat. Okay, so the salt one, that gives a lovely sort of Christmas taste to it. It is delicious. The bits of the skin that did get it crisp is very crispy. It's lovely. It's delicious. The smokehouse rub, disappointingly, the vinegar experiment didn't work, but it is still delicious to taste. The rub just gives it a whole different flavor. You can still taste the pork, but then you also taste the rub that's on it, which is lovely. So it is a little bit spicy, but not that you would not want to eat it. So regardless of how this has turned out, as the first time for a pork belly, I think it is an absolutely fantastic effort. It was definitely worth the wait because the flavor is fantastic on both of them. But yeah, it was my first attempt, and I think it's a good one. I'd probably say about a 60% pass. I'm going to be serving this with some coleslaw and mustard mash. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give us a thumbs down. If you have any advice, then please feel free to put it in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers. Have a good evening.